Now let's assume that the month of Ramadan is your zakat month. Okay, the very first question comes to your mind: what is to be included in my zakat calculation? The first and the most important category, okay, that applies to all of us here is the money that you have, is the cash money that you have, whether it is cash in hand, whether it is in your checking account, in your saving account, although you are not supposed to have a saving account to start with, in your money market account, although you're supposed to keep it to the minimum only like for settlement purposes, any kind of cryptocurrency that you have, even if you have bought that unit, let's say Bitcoin, you purchased that unit for $1,700 a few months ago. We don't care about how much you paid for that unit. What we care about actually is the actual purchase power of that unit, okay, of that like Bitcoin in the zakat due date. If you are to purchase, if you are to using it for purchasing purposes, how much, I mean, like if you want to convert it to dollars or if you want to sell it, how much you will be getting in the zakat due date. Okay, although you paid $1,700, maybe in the zakat due date you can make $2,500, you can make $3,000. Then you have to pay zakat al-mal based on $3,000, and vice versa. Even if you paid $1,700, but it went down for whatever reason to $500, then its value in the zakat due date is how much? $500. So cash in hand, your checking account, your saving account, any kind of cryptocurrency, any kind of documented or even undocumented, income that you have made, when it comes to zakat al-mal, you have to take into consideration. What if you have received maybe some financial support, maybe from the government, from the state, from the, or any kind any kind of financial support, any kind of like monetary or non-monetary support, anything that could be converted to cash money whenever you want, that actually to be included as well. Any kind of income or salary, right? That is already deposited in your checking account is to be included as well. When it comes to calculating zakat al-mal, we don't care about the annual income, or a total income. What we care about actually is the remaining income. Let's say, for example, that back in 2025, your total income, salary and others, was $100,000 straight. This is one of the major differences between tax calculation as opposed to zakat calculation. When you apply for your income tax to the IRS, you start the math with the $100,000. Of course, there are deductions based on number of family members, whether you pay mortgage, whether you pay tuition fees for your kids, and so on and so forth. But you start the math with the total income. In our example, if you have made $100,000 back in 2025, and the remaining income or the saving, the leftover in the zakat due date was only $20,000, then we don't care about how much you made. What we care about is the remaining income. In our example, $20,000. So you start the math with the $20,000 regardless of how much you have made in the past. Your zakat rate, okay, in most of the categories is only 2.5%. And this is actually a fixed rate and not a progressive one. Here in the US, we do have a bracket system, right? The more money you make, the higher your tax will be. When it comes to zakat al-mal, it is fixed, right? It is 2.5% period. Unless you pay your zakat in the month of December, then it has to be 2.575. So whether you pay zakat on 10,000 or 10 million or $10 billion, it does not make any difference. It is 2.5%. No more and no less. So that is the first category. Okay, I want you just to imagine that you have something called a virtual pool of money. Virtual pool of money, because you will be adding up several categories. So the cash money that you have actually is number one. And just FYI, if you already paid zakat on the cash money that you have, again, the checking account, the saving account, whatever, money market account, cryptocurrency, documented, undocumented money, everything that you have paid zakah on, if you have decided to sit on that money for one complete year and you still have that money until the zakat due date, then you have to pay zakah on it over and over. So there is an indirect push or encouragement, okay, from the Islamic finance system for you to invest your money. Because what will happen if you decide to sit on the money, okay, for let's say 40 years? If you do have $100,000 and every single year you pay 2.5%, okay, your money, your wealth actually will be devoured, will be consumed by zakat al-mal. Not to mention the excessive inflation post COVID-19 and the fact that the purchase power of the money that you own actually is going down more and more. So it's way better for you not to sit on the money. It's way better for you to invest the money. At least from the profit that you make, from the halal profit, you can set off the inflation. You can set off the 2.5% zakat al-mal that you have to pay every year. When I say you have a nisab, remember this amount. And by the way, you need to do your own due diligence, your own homework in the zakat due date. So if the gram of gold today is $130, it might be more, it might be less in the zakat due date. If you start calculating and paying zakat in the month of Ramadan, then you need to do some homework in the month of Ramadan and find out how much is the value, because the nisab might go up and might go down. When I say that if you do have a nisab, then you have to pay zakat al-mal, it means that if the net amount that you have, not the gross amount that you have, what is the difference? Okay, let's say in that quote-unquote virtual pool of money, you ended up having $150,000 between money, cash in hand, between money in the checking account, in the saving account, at home with your kids, with your wife, and so on and so forth. 150,000. However, you have some due debts that you have to pay. You found out that you did not even pay the IRS yet. We are still in the tax season. Okay, in the zakat due date, you found out that you owe the IRS $30,000. You still have to pay for the mortgage. You still have to pay for the car payment, for the furniture, for the utensils, for whatever you have, for the appliances. Okay, you have a student loan. You have some other like due debts that you have to pay. Everything that's due in the zakat due date is deductible, right? And this is actually what I mean, that your tax might be zakah deductible, and your zakah could be tax deductible, right? Your zakah could be tax deductible in a sense that if you decided to pay your zakat al-mal to a 501c3 non-for-profit organization, then your zakah actually is, your donation, your zakah is tax deductible. Likewise, your tax is zakat deductible in a sense that if the gross amount that you have in the zakat due date, right, is 150, but you still owe the IRS certain amount of money, that due amount to the IRS actually is deductible. You put it aside, you don't have to pay zakat on it, because actually it's not your money. Okay, it is actually to be paid to the government or to the IRS. That is the first and the very, very common category that every single Muslim in the society has to be aware of, which is the cash money that you have, or whatever is equivalent to the cash money. Now, category number 2 is the business one. We need to ask a question here. What kind of business you have? Some people actually have like very straightforward business. Let's say that a merchant, someone has a grocery store, has a car dealership, has accessories in store. So he or she does have some items called commodities and merchandise and goods and bada'a and urud tijara in that store for sale. Let's take a very simple example. Someone has a car dealership. Okay, in the zakat due date, you found out that you do have 15 cars owned by you, parked in the parking lot outside for sale. Okay, 15 cars. What is the listing price for those 15 cars? Let's say $150,000. So $10,000 for each, just to keep it simple. Do not pay zakah based on $150,000, because actually this is the listing price. You might get that amount and you might not, right? So do not go with the retail price. And as well as do not go with the invoice price or invoice value. Invoice value means how much you already paid for those cars, because you might have purchased those cars maybe a few weeks, few months ago with a different price. So do not go with the invoice price. Do not go with the retail price. Go with something else called the wholesale market value. Wholesale market value means that if I do not have all these 15 cars in my lot in the zakat due date, if I'm to go to the auction and purchase those 15 cars wholesale as a car dealer, how much I will be paying today for those 15 cars? That's called the wholesale market value. If the wholesale market value is only 120, then you pay zakah based on 120. If the wholesale market value is 170, believe it or not, you have to pay zakah based on 170. So do not go again with the invoice value. Do not go with the retail value. Go with the wholesale market value. Likewise, if you do have a grocery store, some people actually might have a grocery store. Some of the grocery items are just expired. Okay, maybe chips, maybe snack, maybe asir, maybe anything that's halal to sell, right? Someone like made an order, purchased some chips, for whatever reason that chips got expired. Okay, he paid $5,000 for that order. Okay, and the chips actually got expired. What is the market value of the chips in the zakah due date? $0, right? Why should you pay zakah based on 5,000 although the market value is 0? So again, you need to go with the wholesale market value. If you are a grocery store individual, find out, okay, answer a very simple question. If I do not have all these groceries in my grocery store, how much I'm willing to pay to the wholesalers or to the suppliers to purchase all what I have already in my store? The answer actually would determine, the value of the business that you have. Any kind of machineries or devices or tools or equipments, whatever you use to run your business are just zakah exempt. Okay, all whatever you use to run your business, right? That those items or those categories are not for zakah. Okay, I'm sorry, not for sale. Then they are zakah exempt. And when it comes actually to calculating your zakah as a merchant, then you need to take into consideration all the items like over the shelves for sale, all the display items, all the inventories that you have, everything for sale, whether sooner or later is to be included and not to be excluded. Anything that you utilize to run your business, but it's not for sale, software, hardware, any tools, any devices, anything that you use are actually zakah exempt. What if the business that you have is completely different? You have rental properties. You have a house that you live in, and you have maybe another 1 or 2 houses or condominiums, apartments, whatever, for rent. Okay, you need to find out how much is the remaining income or the lease revenue, the remaining lease revenue that came already from those apartments. Just keep it simple. You have only 1 apartment for rent, and you charge $2,000 rent. So supposedly on papers, you should have how much in the zakah due date? $24,000. 2,000 times the 12, that's 24,000. Is that correct? However, in the reality, you found out that you have only $3,000. What happened to the rest of the money? Some of that money was spent on yourself, like for your living expenses. Some of that money was paid for maintenance, for tax, for insurance. Certain months, like the tenant, gave you a hard time, did not pay you even the $2,000. So we don't care about the theoretical amount. What we care about is the real actual amount. Not the real actual amount only, the remaining amount. If whatever is still like solid, tangible, available, accessible, owned by you from the 24,000 is only $3,000, then your math should be based on the 3,000, not based on the 24,000. What if the 24,000 have been spent in full? Well, if there is no money, then nothing to worry about. Just move on and find out the other zakatable categories that you might have. So we covered the cash money, we covered business. Oh, we're not done with the business. What if your business actually is a consultancy or consultation in nature? Like you do not sell anything, but you provide a service. You work as a surgeon, right? As a physician, as an engineer, as a consultant, as a lawyer. So you provide a professional service and you charge money. Well, all the money that came from that professional service, let's take an example. You work as an attorney, you have your own legal firm, and you receive money throughout the whole year long from your clients. Every single week, every now and then, you receive a check or monthly payment from your clients. Do not worry about the cash flow that you have. You don't have to keep a track for every single payment that you receive. So just keep receiving money and spend on yourself bil ma'roof, and just find out how much you have in your checking account, cash money, coming from that particular business. All what you have in that checking account actually is zakatable. And I would assume that you already matched, and even you went even like, above the nisab. If the nisab is already established, remember, $10,600 plus or minus. Let's make it simple, $10,000. If the nisab is already established, right, then all the money that you have in the zakat due date, are to be charged zakatul mal. Here is where the confusion comes from. An attorney found out that in the zakat due date, there were like $65,000 cash. However, 25,000 from those 65,000 were deposited just only yesterday, like maybe a few hours before the beginning of Ramadan. So the hawl, like the fiscal lunar year, did not pass. And we know that zakat al-mal is to be paid annually. Here is actually the confusion. And the question here, do I have to pay zakah on those 25,000 that were deposited in my account just a few hours or a few days before the zakat due date? The answer is yes, because the nisab is already established from that business. The nisab, the $10,000, has been already constituted or accumulated from that business. Any extra money that is added up to the nisab will be taken the same rule of the nisab. Do you have $10,000 from that business? The answer is yes. Then anything else has been added on top of it will be taken actually the same rule, and that's why you have to pay zakah. Now, our example, $25,000 one-time check deposited maybe 1 or 2 days before the beginning of Ramadan is still zakatable, because actually it came from the same source of income. Okay, what if that attorney has inherited money? Someone from his family members from the US or overseas passed away, and he received $500,000 cash deposited in his checking account. Does he have to include that $500,000 in the zakah? The answer is no, because this is a very irregular income. He or she has to establish a new fiscal lunar year for that very particular payment that he has received. Now, an example, $500,000 received, deposited in his account, let's say in Safar 15th. You wait until Safar 15th of the next year, and you pay zakat al-mal on that money, right? So you ended up having two different zakat due date, two different fiscal lunar year, one for the regular income and the other one for the irregular income. One for the regular income, like from the legal fees that you generate from your clients, and the other one is a very irregular income, from the inheritance money that you have received. So that is the second category, which is the business one. The very basic one, being a merchant, having rental properties, we call it technically exploited assets like zakat al-mustaghallat, or if you provide the professional service. Do not worry about the cash flow. Just keep receiving money and spending money throughout the whole year long. You need to take a kind of snapshot, how much you have in the zakat due date in your checking account, cash money coming from that business, everything actually you have there, regardless of how long that money has been sitting there in the account, everything there actually is zakatable, basically. Now, the third category is the investment actually including the retirement accounts. And the retirement accounts have two major categories. Could be employer-based retirement accounts, and under this you can list 401k, 403b if you work for non-for-profit or for education institutes. Could be a pension plan, it could be different plans. That's an employer-based. Maybe the most famous one is the 401k. Is that correct? And the other category is the individual retirement accounts. That has nothing to do with your employer. It has nothing to do with your employer. Under that, you have an IRA. There is, by the way, something called simple IRA. This is actually an employer-based retirement account, believe it or not, although it's called individual, but in reality, it's not individual. It is actually an employer-based. So you have individual retirement account, maybe simple, maybe Roth, maybe regular. You have simple investment account, you have brokerage account, you have a mutual fund, you have ETF, you have AGMA account, like for your kids, you have 529 for the education for your kids, and the list actually goes on and on. So we have two major categories, employer-based and individual-based. Why we are categorizing those investments as such. Because of a very simple fact, anything that's employer-based, most probably you will be having a very restricted and limited access to that money. Anything that is a non-employer, anything that is individual, most probably, okay, you will be having a free access to it. You can just liquidate the whole account whenever you want. Now, why the accessibility is an issue? Because one of the conditions for the zakatability of any money or asset is what is called al-mulku tam raqabatan wa yadan. Al-mulku tam raqabatan wa yadan. That's a full ownership and full access as well. Well, sometimes you own money, but you do not have an access to it. A very good example, your 401k. Whatever you have, like, setting in your 401k, whether your contribution or the match of your employer at the end of the day, whatever you have there, whether it is cash money or like, what do you call it, financial instruments like stocks and other financial instruments, is your money, is your asset. Is that correct? But the problem here is not with the ownership. Problem here is with the access. Now, Ahlul Ilm, like contemporary scholars, have three different approaches when it comes to how to pay zakatul mal on your 401k or any retirement account. Some people believe that you have to pay zakat on all what you have, because this is actually the big chunk of money, if you wish, that you have, okay? And like anything else actually is nothing comparison to the 401k or whatever retirement account you might have. So if you do not pay like zakat on the salary because you spend whatever you receive, then the only thing that is zakatable is your 401k. They said, well, you have to pay zakat on everything, right? Now, some other scholars believe that no, this is untouchable account. You are not even supposed to come closer to your 401k. This is a long-term investment you will be having an access to in case of, la samahullah, in case of death, like your family members, in case of disability, or otherwise whenever you retire. So since you are not supposed to touch that money, then you're not supposed to pay zakatul mal on it. Our Fiqh Council, Majma' Fuqaha al-Sharia, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, is taken maybe like a moderate, reasonable position in between. Okay, we do not say that you have to pay zakah in full. We do not say forget about your 401k. We say the following. You find out in the zakah due date how much is the accessible amount, how much is the withdrawable amount. Okay, withdrawable amount means that if you want to borrow from your 401k, how much is the total amount you can borrow? If you want to file for hardship or humanitarian case, how much Fidelity or Vanguard or Schwab or whatever altruist will give you an access to? Let's say, to keep it simple, you do have investment $500,000 straight, and the accessible amount, if you want to do your best to like withdraw as much as you can between a loan that you take, between a hardship, is 50% from the account. So the accessible amount is how much? 250. If you decide to proceed, bear in mind that this is a very theoretical math. You don't have to physically withdraw the money. It's just like a pen and paper, to do the math and to find out how much zakat you have to pay. If you decide to proceed, are you gonna take half, like $250,000 cash with you home? The answer is no. You will be penalized. You have to pay tax. You have to pay penalty. You have to pay processing fees. Okay. Do your math and find out how much you have to pay. Let's say that the total is $50,000. So the take-home amount is how much? $200,000. Now, with those $200,000, you have two options. You want to be in the safe side and have a peace of mind and increase your reward. Pay 2.5% of the $200,000. If you want to go with the book and not to pay one single penny on top of your zakat, that's your choice. I mean, no one actually can push you. You can still actually deduct maybe 15 to 20% from the $200,000, what's called al-usul al-thabita, the fixed assets, because those stocks that you hold in the stock market do not represent commodities and merchandise 100%. Each and every single company does have its own machineries and furniture and offices and tools and devices, and all the above actually are zakah exempt, as you know. So rough estimate, 15-20% from the 200,000 in our example, and the net amount actually is zakatable based on 2.5%. Do yourself a favor and do not open the discussion of the nature of the stocks that you have. Because if you open this floor, okay, it will never be ended, right? Okay, the discussion goes, what kind of stocks I have? Okay, are those stocks like, do those stocks belong to agricultural business, industrial, technology, education, artificial intelligence, piping, engineering? I mean, we have maybe thousands of categories. If you open this floor, you will be getting confused. So do not classify the stocks that you have, as long as you are 100% positive that you have done your best to make your 401k as Sharia compliant as possible. Look at the portfolio that you have as just like a bag of money. All what you have inside is just cash money. How much is the value of your investment? Okay, in our example, after all the deductions, okay, we said $200,000, right? Minus 15-20%, so $160,000 cash money, American dollars, times 2.5%, and you pay zakah on them, and that will be it. Someone actually did not pay zakat on mal for the last 35 years, okay? Has been like working in corporate America since 1995 when he came from overseas, and he did not pay zakat on it. Now actually he found out that, oops, AMJA approach actually is more reasonable. Do you have to backdate that fatwa and go back all the way to 1995? No, forget about what happened in the Afallahu amma salaf. If you believe that this fatwa is more reasonable, right, you start applying it from now on and forget about whatever happened in the past. Why I'm saying so? Because zakah on 401k is a very debatable issue and a very contemporary issue. We do not have like any solid opinion that one can claim or dare claiming. If he is really knowledgeable individual, we say, well, this is the right opinion and other opinions are wrong. We do not have like such approach within the scholarship, right? This is my opinion, this is AMJA opinion, it could be right, could be wrong, Allahu Alam. So if you believe that this approach is reasonable enough or more maybe reasonable than other opinions, from now on you just apply it, and again, afallahu amma salaf. So that is the employer based. Again, 401k, 403b, pension plan. Okay, if you do have a pension plan, like if you work for a federal government or the state or county, sometimes they do not give you 401k, they give you something else called pension plan. Pension plan actually is untouchable. Even if you file for humanitarian case, even if you want to withdraw, even if you want to borrow, the answer would be big no, you cannot touch it. If that is proven, well, believe it or not, your pension plan actually is zakah exempt. Do you have to pay zakah on it? No, you don't have to pay zakah because actually it is untouchable. So al-mulku tam raqabatan wa yadan is not there. You own everything, but you do not have access to anything. Well, since you have lack of access, there is no access, then there is no zakah, mandatory, or that you have to pay it. Can you pay zakah on your pension plan? Yes, you can. Do you have to pay zakah on your pension plan? The answer actually is no, you do not have to pay zakah on it. So those are, I would say, the most important categories. Some of us might have a long-term investment in a sense that he or she purchased a piece of land maybe back home in Bangladesh, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in Algeria, okay, as a long-term investment. Long-term investment means that whenever he or she purchased that land, right, his plan actually was just to sit on it maybe for 10, 15, 20 years until the kids grow up and go to college, and then at that time I'm going to put it in the market and sell it. If that is the plan and that is the practice, which means that this land is not actively in the market for sale, it's not posted on the website, there is no agent waiting for potential sellers, it's just off the market, as they say. If that is the case, then you don't have to pay zakah on it, according to the strongest opinion, right? Even if you have a plan to sell it in the future, as long as it is not actively in the market for sale, then you do not actually have to pay zakah on it. This is based on the Maliki approach that does differentiate between al-tajir al-muhtakir wa tajir al-mudir. Al-tajir al-mudir actually is the active merchant, is the one who buys and sells periodically, systematically. Nothing actually is to be stored. Al-tajir al-muhtakir is the one actually who buys, okay, watches the news and the price. When the price goes down, he just buys something and just put it aside, with no monopoly, with no ihtikar muharram. It's just like a technique that he uses. Put everything aside until the price goes up a little bit, and then he and like put everything for sale. So if you are that tajirul muhtakir, okay, inactive merchant, you just purchase and you hide it for maybe few months, few weeks, few years, Allahu alam. If that is the practice, then according to the Maliki approach, you do not have to pay zakah on whatever is not actively for sale. Properties wise, you have a house that you are living in, you own and you live in. That house actually is zakah exempt, like your steady, what do you call it, like your primary residence, right? Is zakah exempt. You lived in that house, let's say for 10, 15 years, and then you moved somewhere else. You put a sign for rent. From that point on, you need to consider paying zakah on the lease revenue. How much money you have made from that rental property, that is the zakatable part. This is actually regardless of the market value of the house itself or the apartment itself. If its market value is $200,000, do not pay zakah based on 200, because that house actually is not urudu tijara, it's not for sale, right? So you just hold it to make money out of it. Exactly like if you have an Uber, for example, or taxi cab, you provide transportation services, right? That car that you drive, it could be $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, but it's not for sale. So it's not urudu tijara, it's not something for sale, thus zakah exempt. You pay zakah on the money that you generate out of providing that transportation service. You pay zakah from the lease revenue, from the money that you generate from leasing or renting that apartment. Let's say that you ended up having some cash money, okay, that is zakatable, and you did your math, you found out that you have some zakat to be paid, like on behalf of your 401k, on behalf of your IRA. I did not continue when it comes to the IRA, when it comes to individual retirement account investment, most probably those accounts are withdrawable in full. If you have an AGMA account, 529 IRA, you can withdraw everything. So if you go with the same formula, you go with the withdrawable accessible amount, minus any prescribed penalty and tax, net amount is zakatable based on 2.5%. You find out how many accounts that you have, how much you have, how much is the net amount, like the take-home amount from the employer-based and the individual-based retirement and investment accounts, and you do the math accordingly. Very few accounts in the stock market, very few, okay, could be inactive accounts. Someone actually has a brokerage account, and he's very interested in just picking and choosing certain stocks that he's interested in. He just buys and stores there. But he is not actively like trading. He's not like watching the news whenever the price goes up, he sells, whenever the price goes down, no. He's just happy with the dividend that he makes. If that is proven that a very certain account is a very inactive account, so you are not trading and nobody else actually is trading on your behalf, right? If that account is very inactive, then you pay zakah on the dividend only, not on the market value of the account. Because that scenario is equivalent to the rental property or to the like taxi cab that you have. So again, the commodity itself or the asset itself is not for sale. Likewise, in the stock market, those stocks are not for sale, right? But you make money out of holding them. You make money from the car out of providing transportation service. You make money from the apartment because it is for rent, right? So the generated money is the zakatable. Likewise, the dividend that you make from those stocks actually is the zakatable part, while the market value actually is not zakatable. Back to the real estate. You have your primary residence, a house that you live in, that is zakah exempt. After 10, 15 years, you moved somewhere else, and you put that house for rent. From that point on, you need to pay zakah on the lease revenue, the net amount and not the gross amount. Maybe after 4 or 5 years, you change your mind. Okay, you remove that sign for rent, and you put another sign for sale. Well, from that point on, you need to consider paying zakatul mal based on the market value of the house, even if that house stayed for 1 complete year in the market unsold. As long as it is urudu tijar, it is for sale actively in the market, then you have to pay zakah on it. Okay? If you do not feel comfortable paying zakah, then take it off the market. Take it off as long as it is in the market, then it is counted as urudu tijara. Thus, consequently, you have to pay zakah on it. In that virtual pool of money, you added up the salary and the saving and the checking account and the cash and the, the 401k and the individual retirement account, you ended up having, give me a number, $100,000 straight. But you did not pay $10,000 to the IRS. You still have to pay $3,000 for your mortgage. I'm not saying mortgage is haram or halal, that's a completely different discussion. $3,000 for the mortgage, $700 for the car, $500 for the appliances, okay? There is a due debt, $5,000. You need another $5,000 for your living expenses, for yourself, for your family members. Everything that is due, everything that you desperately need on the spot in the month of Ramadan, the zakat due date, you put it aside, and it is actually zakat exempt. How much is the net amount? Is it still $10,000 or more after all these deductions? If the answer is yes, then you have to pay zakah on whatever is counted as the net amount, not the gross amount. If after all these deductions the amount went down below the nisab, then actually you are zakah exempt for that particular year. You do not have to pay. You have to pay zakatul mal. Moving on, once you find out that okay, my zakah for this year is total of $7,000, okay, and I do not feel comfortable, or I'm not sure that in the next years I will be having $7,000 every year available, to pay as zakatul mal. Can I make a payment plan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes, you can, right? If you estimate your zakat to be $6,000, okay, for the upcoming year, for the 1447, or if you want to go with the Gregorian calendar for the 2026, if you estimate your zakat to be $6,000, can you start paying from now, prepay zakatul mal, $500 every month to make it easy? Yes, you can. Prepayment of zakatul mal actually is allowed. So start from now paying $500 every single month with the intention of paying zakatul mal. Intention is very important because this is the ibadah. Rasulullah said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. In the same way that when you raise your hand for salah, you say Allahu Akbar, you have in heart and mind that I'm going to pray Salatul Witr, Salatul Isha, Salatul Jum'ah, whatever. Likewise, when you pay zakatul mal, you have to have the intention that I'm paying zakatul mal, number one. And number two, you have to make sure that you're giving your zakat to an eligible zakat recipient. Do some homework, some due diligence, find out, is that cause, is that masjid, is that college, is that individual, is that faqir, that miskeen, really a miskeen one? If the answer is yes, go ahead and pay zakat al-mal. So you can pay like a payment plan from now in advance. So in the month of Ramadan or the month of December, you already paid 95%, 95% from zakat al-mal. If you already paid way more zakat al-mal, way more than zakat al-mal, then you do not have to do the math. Your zakah is between 5,500 up to 6,000. You found out that in the zakat you already paid $7,000. Do you have to go through the pain of doing the math and find them? You don't have to, because you are 100% positive that you paid way more than zakat al-mal. If you do have some doubt, did I match the zakah or not, then you have to do the math and make sure. Let's say that you paid more than what you're supposed to pay. You have two options. You can give yourself a credit for the next year, so extra money will be counted as a prepayment of zakat al-mal of the upcoming year, or you can just count it as a sadaqah or donation, like non-mandatory zakah or donation. When it comes to paying zakat al-mal, you start with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with. He said, إنما الصدقات, can you help me? إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها مؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it sadaqat, although he means zakat al-mal, the mandatory one. So he started with al-fuqara wal-masakin. If you are aware of certain needy individuals, whether fuqara or masakin, whether people who ask publicly or people who do have that dignity, self-respect, shyness, they do not ask, so masakin. Okay? Whether you go with the madhab that al-faqir is the one who does not have a source of income, okay, while al-miskin is the one who does have an income, but whatever he makes is insufficient, whatever madhab you follow. At the end of the day, those needy and poor individuals are eligible zakat recipients. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purposely started with them. So before giving your zakatul mal to mass or the care and isna and ikna and guidance college and your local masjid, you start with al-fuqara wal masakin. You make sure that the local needy individuals have been taken care of. And then after that, it's your call. After that, it is your call. Okay. My recommendation, if you do have some family members overseas waiting for your zakatul mal, okay, then you definitely take them into consideration. In fact, giving your relatives actually will be causing your reward to be multiplied, because according to hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, like giving to the relatives is sadaqatun wa silah. It is sadaqah, okay, and silah, like have a good relationship with your kin and kith. So your reward will be inshallah multiplied. So you pay your zakat al-mal to your relatives. Of course, you have to avoid your ascendants and descendants. You cannot give zakat al-mal to your dad and to your mom and to your grandfather and grandmother and on. And you cannot give your zakat al-mal to your children and grandchildren, right? Anybody else, siblings, paternal uncles, maternal uncles, aunts, cousins, extended family, you can, give them. So you start with al-fuqara wal-masakin. If you live in this society here, I would highly recommend that you strike a balance, right? Some of your zakah and donation should be given to the Islamic work in the USA, and another part maybe you can give it to your relatives overseas. So you start with al-fuqara wal-masakin. Very common question here: can I pay zakat al-mal to support my masjid or to support the Islamic work? I believe in that CARE does a good job, or MAS or ICNA or ISNA or American Muslims for Palestine or any of those Islamic organizations. All the contemporary fiqh councils, with no exception, whether the Fiqh Council of the Muslim World League, whether the European Council for Research and Fatwa, whether the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, all these different fiqh councils are unanimous that giving zakatul mal to support the Islamic work and da'wah purposes outside the Muslim world would fit under the category fi sabilillah. Because fi sabilillah means for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, traditionally, historically speaking, that category was designated for jihad purposes, like for the volunteers among the mujahideen who used not to get paid by the Muslim state. So in order for them to close their business for weeks and days and months, they need like kind of support. So that category was, designated for them. But there is no clear evidence either in the Quran or in the Sunnah, believe it or not, that jihad, that fi sabilillah means only the physical jihad. Prophet ﷺ said, "Jahidul mushrikina bi amwalikum wa anfusikum wa alsinatikum." Apply jihad against the enemies of Islam bi amwalikum, with your money, wa anfusikum. That's the qital, the physical, jihad, right? And then he said, wa alsinatikum, like through education. So even if you want to stick with the concept of jihad, jihad has different categories. And if the ultimate goal of jihad is to establish and to empower the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, all these Islamic organizations and masajids and colleges and CARE and MAS and ICNA and ISNA, they do the same job. So, long story short, if a certain Islamic organization, you wholeheartedly believe that this masjid or this college or this Islamic organization, charity, political one, is doing a good job serving the Muslim community, number one. So you believe in their mission. Number two, if you trust the leadership of that organization, that those people actually are umana and trustworthy and transparent. And number three, they literally ask for your zakatul mal. So you believe in their mission, you trust their leadership, and they has made it clearly that our sadaqah and donation and contribution and grants are insufficient. We need your zakah. Well, if those three conditions are met, then you can definitely pay zakatul mal to them. On a personal level, I pay my zakah to my local masjid, to the ISGH, Islamic Society of Greater Houston. I pay it to MAS, Muslim American Society. I pay it to CARE. I pay it to ISNA. I pay it to ICNA. I love all these Islamic organizations. I see, mashallah, that they are doing a wonderful job serving the Muslim community. I know the leadership of most of those Islamic organizations. I trust them. I know them in person. Okay? And they definitely, mentioned clearly that they need zakatul mal. Not to mention that, Guidance College, the one that I'm running, is an eligible zakat recipient, and I do actually pay zakat al-mal to support it. I have actually a lot to add here. We have a lot of details, but since I've been talking maybe like almost now 1 hour, 40 minutes, plus tax, right? So that's 45 minutes, 50 minutes. But let me just pause here a little bit and remind you that for those who did not make it for Salat al-Jum'ah, I was the khatib for the first and second khutbah. I was reminding my community here, inshallah, with the importance of taking advantage of the month of Sha'ban and preparing yourself for the month of Ramadan. And I reminded the community that I'm representing Guidance College that does actually offer degrees in Islamic and Islamic education. And we have some converts and some returning citizens, some needy individuals, in which, alhamdulillah, we offer them what's called in-house financial aid. And I told the community that to sponsor a student for 4 years, that's $10,000. For associate degree, only 2 years, $5,000. For one academic year, $2,500. Whatever you can pay, whatever you can offer, if you have made a pledge today or you have like in mind that you want to donate, it's never too late. I do have the donation box and the credit card machines and the pledge form. So please be as generous, as supportive as possible. It's definitely, make no mistake about it, an eligible zakat recipient. So under the category of al-fuqara wal-masakeen, you pay your zakat al-mal. Your donation tonight and today will be going to a separate bank account called in-house financial aid, right? So for those converts, for those new Muslims, for those returning citizens, like felons who have been released recently from jail, they need a lot of support. What we can offer actually is the education support, and this is what we do. We just offer them admission for free. So please be as generous, as supportive as possible. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakallahu khair.
Jazakallahu khair, Shaykhana. Just for your information, all the zakat that we receive here at ICSD, we use it for financial aid. So we don't use the zakat we receive for the daily operation of the masjid, like payrolls and maintenance. We don't use that. 100% of zakat we receive goes for financial aid. So let's open the session for questions. I see a lot of hands. So let's start with Dr. Safwat, so, and we will go this way, inshallah.
If that is proven that that very particular, investment account is a very inactive account, so like you purchase stocks and you deposit them there and you generate dividend. There is no active trading like buying and selling. If that is proven, then yes, you pay zakat on the dividend only. Well, you have to make sure, because like some people actually have a mutual fund account. And they say, well, I do not touch my account. Well, you do not touch it, but the mutual fund company is touching it like day and night. They trade, they buy and sell on your behalf. And that's why I said that if it is proven that this account is untouchable, right? You have some stocks for Apple, for Microsoft, and you are very happy with the dividend that you generate from those stocks. No one is trading on your behalf. Then yes, you don't have to pay zakat. You pay zakat only on the dividend. No.
So let's take from the right side, from the middle.
How about the sisters upstairs, maybe? If you have.
Anyone? Raise your voice, please.
You still, Habibna, go with the same formula. In the zakat due date, how much you have in your 401k, how much is the value of what you have, the combination of the instruments, like the stocks plus the cash money, how much is the value in the zakat due date, okay? That amount actually you go, regardless of how much it was before. What you care about actually is the value in the zakat due date. It could be more, it could be less before, right? Because those accounts fluctuate, they go just up and down. So we don't care about the value in the past. What we care about is what we care about is the value in the zakat due date. How much you have, okay? 100,000. How much is the withdrawable amount? how much is the penalty and the tax and processing fees, and you do the math like every year. No. To my knowledge, and this is like a very debatable issue because Prophet ﷺ did not mention anything about zakatul dain, who's supposed to pay zakat on the loan. But the most correct opinion is that you as a lender, you are zakah free. You don't have to worry about that money. Even if you are positive that the borrower actually is willing to pay you, okay, do not pay zakah. Just wait until you receive that loan, and that money stays like in your possession for one complete year, and then you pay zakat al-manut. Again, this is a very debatable issue, but what I have said now actually is just one of the 2 or 3 different approaches within the Hanbali madhab, okay, which is the madhab of Ummuna Aisha radiallahu anha, and Abdullah ibn Umar, and Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl. They said that zakatul dayni, like zakat on the loan, okay, is on the borrower, not on the lender. If you have given that money to somebody else, and that recipient, that borrower, has decided to keep the money in his possession for one complete year. He took that money from you to do a surgery, to buy a car, to do whatever. For whatever reason, he did not do. He just kept that money. If he keeps that money for one complete year, then he has to pay zakah on it and not you. So the lender actually is zakah exempt. Wait until you receive the money, and that money stays in your possession for one complete year, and then you pay zakah on it. This is the strongest opinion to my knowledge. Again, this is a very debatable issue here. If you did not keep that cash money for one complete year, like you sold the house, you liquidate, like you get the money, within a few days, a few weeks, you put that money in another property. And that property actually was a residential, like your home estate, your primary residence, no zakah. But if you keep that money, like if you get busted in the zakat due date, having $500,000 cash money staying in your possession for one complete year, then you have to pay zakah on it. So you need to make arrangement to take that money from the old house, you put it in the new house. As long as it is cash money staying with you for one complete year, then you have to pay zakah. That is zakatable 100%, because the property actually is as you said, investment. It's not residential. That is zakah exempt 100%. I'm not sure if I got your question. Are you renting from yourself? How come? How come? So it's a tax like reduction techniques, okay, which is 100% legal. I mean, yeah, I see. I see. Here is the answer. Yeah, here is the answer. You have what's called dhimmatun maliyatun mustaqillah, like independent financial responsibility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever business that you own, whether you represent yourself as an individual, as a corporate person, as a real individual, all what you have, all what is under your ownership is zakatable, okay, or those properties actually are to be paid zakah by you. So you have maybe two different personalities here. You have your real individual as XYZ, and you do have a business that's owned by you, okay? Whether you have cash money coming from your saving from whatever, and you have some other money coming from the business, at the end of the day, you are the responsible party. So if what you do actually is legal and do those techniques to, keep your tax money to the IRS to the minimum, whatever zakatable is your responsibility actually to pay. So just you can do the technique that you do, that you rent from yourself and you reduce it. But again, whenever zakah is determined to be paid, you are the responsible party for it, whether under your actual name or under your LLC. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it doesn't make difference. I mean, whatever zakatable in the zakat due date is your responsibility. So you paid zakah. Do you still have that money? If the answer is yes, is it owned and accessible by you? If the answer is yes, when that money actually is zakatable. If you receive that money and you spend it, then there is no money to worry about. Doctor, no. Is it actively for sale in the market? Piece of land off the market. Off the market, it's not for sale. No zakah.
There is a question from our sisters about زكاة الذهب الذي تم شراؤه للاستعمال الشخصي للزينة وليس للاستثمار حتى لو لم يكن مستعمل بشكل دائم.
So the sister is asking about the zakah on jewelry. Okay, again, this is like a very debatable issue between the four madhab of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. If someone actually pays zakah on the jewelry, I'm not here to discourage anyone from paying zakah. If you are that individual who pays zakah on the jewelry, keep up the good job, jazakallah khair. More zakah you pay, inshallah, more reward you will be getting. But there is a huge difference between, do I have to pay zakah on the jewelry, as opposed to, can I pay zakah? Can you pay zakah? Yes, you can. But if you ask me a question, do I have to pay zakah on the jewelry? My answer actually is no. Absolutely no. Jewelry is not zakatable with two different conditions. Number one, if that jewelry is within the average that other sisters have in the same society, if the average nowadays is between $40,000 to $50,000, and a sister actually does have $30,000, $40,000 worth of jewelry, that jewelry actually is zakah exempt. And like condition number two, it's not for business purposes. Okay, if she holds that jewelry for her personal use, and this actually does not mean that she has to use it like regularly, but actually that jewelry is designated for her. Okay, whenever she has a party or wedding or reception, whatever she wears, that would be fine. So for the personal use, not for business purposes, within the average, there's zakah exempt. If the average is up to 40,000 and she has $100,000 worth of jewelry, well, that's way too much. The first 40,000 are zakah exempt because that's the average, and the surplus 60,000 actually is zakatable. This is to take into consideration the two different madhahib, okay, two different contradicting madhahib. The one who does mandate, zakah on jewelry, and the one that exempt, jewelry from zakat. Well, even if it is vested, but like you have a very limited access, very restricted access to it, and that's why you have to borrow from it. You have to apply. You have to take a way around, like circumventing the rules by applying for hardship to have an access to it. Otherwise, it's not accessible. That's correct. If you do have an access to 100% of your 401k, but you have to like pay big amount of money as tax and penalty, do the math, the net amount, the take home amount is the zakatable. Yeah.
But then after that, not before that, like say it's a business because I have like these stocks in the market, in the portfolio like business ownership. So I take on top of that, how much of those estimated, what's the value of inventory in those? So first I reduce it by the amount of taxes, then
I do not recommend that akhi, at all, because if you open this, this discussion, you will be getting confused, because some of those stocks that you have belong to technology, some of them belong to education, tourism, and that's
no, I'm not calculating each of those, just taking the average of the typical.
like to deduct the fixed asset. You mean الأصول الثابتة? And I would say up to 20% is safe enough. Do you agree?
Yeah, 12% is the
You deduct it? Yeah.
inventory.
Not the inventory, the fixed assets.
I see a lot of hands. So
طيب.
yes, well.
My question is, when I pay my zakat money to some establishments like mosque or educational, Islamic educational institutions, like school, Islamic school, or establishments of such things, can I pay my zakat money?
In this society, yes. If I'm living in a Muslim society, I would never pay my zakat to the masajid, because they have their own, Ministry of Islamic Affairs. They have their own budget to take care of the maintenance and the construction of the masajid. Here, this society is absolutely different scenario. So, can you pay your zakat to your local masjid with those three different conditions? Do you think that your masjid is doing a good job? Okay, that the service actually is desperately needed by the community? Do you trust the leadership of that masjid? Number three, are they asking for zakat al-mal? If the answer is yes, 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 then go ahead and pay zakat al-mal. Under the category fi sabilillah, yes, you pay your zakat to the masjid, and the masjid actually is free. They can use it for that would be fine. That would be fine. According to Amja fatwa, yes, I mean, as needed, that zakatul mal could be used for building and maintaining and expanding and running the masajid. Now, تفضل يا سليمان. وعليكم السلام.
You made a very important point in around us kind of taking our obligations, our individual obligations, in more focus at the expense of having these collective obligations. The cat, historically has been a collective obligation. So, in the circles that you've been in, or the panels that you sit on, are there any ideas how we can move forward in a way to make zakat more of a collective obligation amongst the community?
Wallahi, I wish we reached to a point where we have a central, zakah fund for the Muslim community in the USA, but so far actually we do not. We do have some attempts here or there, like back home in Houston. We have ISGH, Islamic Society of Greater Houston, and to my knowledge, they centralize the zakah. So they have around maybe 20-25 masajid under the umbrella of ISGH. They mandate the masajid to collect zakah and to send it to the central, zakah fund. And they have a committee sitting there and just, investigating and finding out, receiving applications, doing their due diligence, which is like a wonderful system actually, to make sure that all people in Houston have only one source of zakah, which is the ISGH. I wish like other cities at least, do the same job.
We're limited in time. We'll take one, and one. Go ahead, brother. Yeah.
It's the same concept, حبيبنا. هو يعني you go with the same formula, withdrawable amount minus any prescribed penalty and tax. Your withdrawable amount in your 401k is limited up to 20, 30, 50%, because it is a restricted amount. But if it is an like IRA or any kind of investment in the stock market, it is actually accessible in full. So if you apply the same formula, the accessible amount would be 100% in your brokerage account. The accessible amount in 401k will be only 20 or 30%. Because your 401k is under active investment. Okay, your investment company, like the custodian who's taking care of your 401k, is actually investing and trading and speculating and buying and selling around the clock, and that's why you make money. عرفت أخي؟ Unless you prove otherwise. If it is 100% proven that your 401k is a very, like a steady, very inactive account, which is 99% not the case. But if it is proven that your 401k is not under active investment, then yes, okay, the whole math will be different. Yes, sir.
So my condition, my questions are related to the same point. So what are the conditions on a stock that I own that have to be satisfied in order to say that this is an inactive stock, so that it's exempted from zakat and I only pay on the income?
Whatever Habibna is commonly known as an inactive, like there is no specific definition in the Islamic finance system for the inactive. Like you tell me if you are active in the market, like if I have a brokerage account and I do transactions maybe twice or three times a year, would you consider me as an active investor? The answer is no. Then whatever I have in that particular account is zakah exempt, and zakah is to be paid on the dividend only.
So 2-3 years, I mean, so 2 to 3 times.
I'm not a practitioner, but I would assume, I would assume that like every now and then you do like one transaction, no big deal. As opposed to somebody else actually who's watching the news and like Yahoo Finance, and sometimes you feel your blood pressure going up and down with the index. If you are that individual, you are active in the market, pays account, everything.
Last question.
When the brother asked you about the day, and you answered them, like once the money is back, you wait for a year.
Correct.
To pay back that basic account. Why not we don't apply the same concept on the income or on the investment?
What do you mean?
Like if I have an income, if I have an income just came into my account like 2 days prior to the nisab day, I have to pay taxes on it. I don't have to wait the whole year. So isn't that the same concept, just like the bank?
No, it's not. It's not. When it comes to the income, like regular income, I mean, this is something that you experience periodically, like every month, sometimes every day if you have a professional service. And the nisab is already established there. So that's called the mal al-mustafad, like the extra gained money on top of the nisab. Whatever you receive, okay, whatever you have available in the zakat due date should be zakatable. Zakat today actually is different because actually that money was not yours. Well, technically it is yours, like legal it's yours, but you did not have an access to it for a long period of time. So whenever you receive that money, okay, you can definitely wait for one complete year. Because actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a hikmah, has a wisdom behind that. He wants you to have the breather or the opportunity or the enough time to invest the money. And from the profit that you make, you pay zakatul mal. As opposed to receiving the money and paying zakat on it on the spot. You did not have the time, to make 10-15% profit and to deduct 2.5%. So you can wait for one complete year until a hawl is already passed, and then you pay zakah. If you decide to pay zakah on the spot upon receiving the money, go for it. Again, this is a very debatable issue because Prophet ﷺ ما ذكر في زكاة الدين شيئا, not mention anything related to zakah on that. And that's why the Sahaba and the Tabi'een and the 4 different madhab and the contemporary fiqh council actually are having still the same debate. But what I mentioned here actually is to my knowledge, I might be wrong, is the most, I would say, fair and just opinion. Okay. Otherwise, you are punishing financially the lender. You tell him, go ahead, give your money to others, and while you do not have an access to your money, you pay zakah on it. So, like instead of encouraging people to give money as qardun hasan, we discourage them financially. Give the money to others, get zero like interest on top of it. Not only that, you pay 2.5%. I mean, that's way too much, and there is no enough evidence to support this theory, and that's why I disagree with it. Allah.
جزاك الله خير. Barakallahu feek. I know that some of you still have some questions, but if Dr. Ma'an agrees, you can come and ask him individually. But let's make a deal. Before you ask your question, there is the donation device right here. بين يدي قدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقات. So again, Jazakallah khair, Shaykhna Hafizakallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and reward you for all this knowledge that you have shared with us today, whether in the khutbah or tonight. And Jazakumullah khair for attending and asking your questions. Please, do you mind if... طيب, yalla, if anyone has any question, but give priority to those who did not ask a question. Abdul Ghani, stay there. Okay. يلا جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.